All right, good afternoon, everybody. Let me just remind people that because there are only six of us, we are maintaining the open microphones over the course of the session this afternoon. So in between when you're actually speaking, if you could be as quiet as possible, because everyone else will hear what's happening around you if you're not using a headset and a microphone. And when we do come to the point in the session where I'm asking for people to respond to questions or prompts, if you will either physically hold up your hand if we have you in video, or use the raise your hand button in the toolbar on the right under the participant drop-down menu. It's a little yellow hand. All you need to just click on that, and we will know that you're ready to give a response. When we get to that, if anyone's having a difficult time finding that, we'll help you do that. So again, welcome back to session 3. Today, our question that we're going to be looking at is, what does existing research say about my research question? And specifically, we're going to be looking at some of the work that you've done over this past week, looking for literature using literature databases. So to start this week, again, for Georgette and Chantal, who are joining us this week for the first time, there are some features that are built into the GoToTraining software that we're using. And one of the things that we are going to be using is the chat in just a moment. So in your toolbar on the side, if everyone down in the
it's right at the bottom.
Right at the bottom, if you can type in something that you've learned this past week, it could be related to the course, it could have nothing to do with the course, but just one thing that you've learned this past week into that chat box. And again, when you typed into your response, where it says type the message here, hit return, and it will appear in the chat column, and everyone will be able to see it.
Barbara's learned that she needs more eat breaks. Yeah, I think we all do.
Okay, I can't see anybody's chat on my own.
Georgette has learned that doing research requires time. It does. Stephanie says that having a week off after the first 2 weeks of school is awesome. Yeah, we wouldn't know how that feels over here. And Angeli's learned that the different databases that support research and development. Oh, okay. We look forward to hearing what you have learned about those databases later today.
I have the chat icon, but it doesn't actually open anything.
Okay, do you just want to share with us then, Chantal?
Something I've learned this week?
Yeah.
That we need more time.
Georgette? Oh no, Georgette did
Yeah.
something in.
Oh,
Yeah.
Georgette said that doing research requires time.
great. Everybody, thank you for that. In some of our sessions, we will make more use of the chat box. Today, luckily, since Chantal doesn't have hers working, I think that is the only time we're going to use it, but we want to keep refreshing just your knowledge of how the functions work, so that when we do get to those sessions, when we're using those a bit more intensively, we can launch right into them. I do want to point out this week that we do have everyone with us this week, and I apologize. I have Stephanie and Chris's picture, but they didn't get put into this version. So because we can't see Georgette and Chantal there today, Angeli, who's joining us from one of our London-based campuses, and Chris, who may be online by now, will at least know what we all look like. So I want to jump right into today talking about the asking you actually a question. In preparing for this session, or in the work that you did this past week, had you ever used an online database to search for academic literature? And again, Latifa is going to launch this as a poll in just a moment, again, to give you practice in using this function and to just get your responses quickly. So it's a yes and no poll. Go ahead, and if you have the Chantal, I don't know if you'll be seeing this if you don't see the chat function, but for everyone who can see this, if you can just go ahead and type in either the yes or no.
Oh, right, there's a half and a half. We've got 50%. Oh, it's going up. 60% saying yes, they have, and 40% saying they have not.
Okay, so with any luck today, some of the things we'll be talking about will provide a good refresher for people who used them before. And if you haven't used them before, please, when we get to the points where we can ask questions or where we're sharing, if people say things and you want to know more about it, please ask for them to expand on the things that they're saying. In the reading last week and in the videos, you looked at some information about how to use ERIC and how to use Google Scholar. We are going to look at both of those short videos again today as part of today's session. Again, just to refresh your kind of knowledge of those things one more time, and to give you the opportunity to ask questions about those databases while we're all together. And so we're going to start out by looking at ERIC, and then we're going to take a quick look at Google Scholar, and then we're actually going to use ERIC live online to do an exercise. So again, ERIC is provided by the Institute of Education Services. The ERIC database has been around for a very, very long time, and it's a pretty comprehensive collection of resources for educators. ERIC specifically is for education, where you'll find other academic databases that may cater to a whole range of subjects and areas, and that certainly will be the case for Google Scholar, although we'll talk about how you can actually filter that for information that's just about the educational field. And again, you all, I think, had an opportunity to look at ERIC. ERIC is at eric.ed.gov, and in a little while, we're going to actually be doing an exercise live with ERIC. So to get us started today, just as a refresher, let's take another look at the video that you looked at in preparation for this session.
Looking for education research? ERIC has over 1.5 million records of journal articles, reports, and books related to the field of education, including many peer-reviewed and full-text materials. ERIC is a free resource funded by the U.S. Department of Education's Institute of Education Sciences. The search engine at eric.ed.gov uses powerful and intuitive discovery tools to deliver relevant, recent content without the need for complicated searches. The easy-to-use search returns quality matches for your terms across a set of key ERIC fields, including title, author, source, abstract, and descriptors from the ERIC thesaurus. The results will include all records with your search terms or their variants in the key fields. For example, if you search for the term read, you will also pick up records that include reading, reads, and readers. You can get relevant results with a simple search. Rather than using Boolean operators such as and or, try putting multiple terms in a simple string. ERIC combines terms in a way that reduces the need for quotation marks or advanced search logic. Search results are sorted based on the most relevant matches. In this example, the search results are timely, and the search terms appear in the titles, descriptors, and abstracts. Check the box Peer-Reviewed Only to retrieve only peer-reviewed journal articles and peer-reviewed non-journal materials from the Institute of Education Sciences. To see only records with full text, check the box for full text available on ERIC. You'll find limiters on the left side of the results page to help narrow your findings within the most frequently searched fields in ERIC. The number to the right of each limiter represents the number of matching records in your results. For example, there are 6 peer-reviewed full-text records from the National Center for Special Education Research in the results from this search. You may add multiple limiters to your search criteria. While the majority of research needs can be easily accomplished with a simple ERIC search, there are some cases when a direct field search is useful. One example is when you're looking for records by an author with a last name like Young, which is also a common term in education. If you search for technology, Young, you'll get records on technology for young students, as well as records by authors named Young. A field search by author, however, using the format technology, author, Young, will return only records by authors or co-authors named Young, who wrote journal articles, reports, or books about technology. Note, however, that you can typically obtain better results by not limiting your searches to specific fields. If, for example, you are searching for author Ruth Curran Neild's work on high school dropouts, searching with author Ruth Neild and descriptor dropout produces 4 results. However, the basic search, Ruth Neild dropout, yields the same 4 articles, as well as 3 additional articles that are relevant to your search. These additional results mention Ruth Curran Neild's related work in the abstract, but aren't retrieved when the search is limited to the author field. The new results include a summary of research on dropouts that features her work, a book in which she wrote a chapter, and a reference to a companion research report that she co-authored. Using ERIC's powerful and intuitive search engine will allow you to easily and productively search the 1.5 million education-related materials available at eric.ed.gov, your free online path to relevant recent content without the need for complicated searches. For questions or to provide feedback, contact the ERIC Help Desk via email or phone. For more from ERIC, visit us on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube.
All right. So I would like to ask that, having watched the video and having completed the tasks for this week, if anyone used ERIC, if you could raise your hand to tell us a bit about what your experience was in using it. Christy, go ahead, please.
Okay. Oh, hang on, someone's coming. Yeah, I used it. I actually tried the Google one afterwards because I got a bit frustrated with the ERIC that it wasn't giving me the sort of journals and the information that I wanted. I think a couple of them were okay, and I think it was all right. Sorry, sorry. I thought that was Andy coming. Yeah, I thought a couple of the articles that were coming through were okay, but most of them were not what I was looking for. So I then tried the Google one because I thought the search would be wider, and it turned out to be, I think.
Okay. Yeah, Christy, one of the things I mentioned before I started the video is that, in fact, the Google searches are much wider than the ERIC searches. The ERIC searches are limited to the field of education. And oftentimes the things that we're looking for may be connected to other fields, and so they wouldn't necessarily be included in the ERIC database.
I unplugged it and it works. I emailed you back. I don't know what happened. It just wouldn't. Sorry, I was just trying to sort out my technical difficulties, which I fixed.
Guys, anyone else? Anyone else that used it have anything they want to feedback? Chantal, please, go ahead. Oh, we'll do Chantal first, then we'll come back to Barbara and Anjali.
All right, so I used both search engines, and I had similar, I wouldn't say problems, because I certainly read a lot of interesting material. It wasn't exactly what I was looking for, though. So I found that I did an awful lot of reading, and I didn't quite get what I was looking for. A lot of the research seems to be based around secondary students or tertiary education as well, which was not really relevant to the area that I was looking at, but a lot of interesting reading nonetheless.
Great, thanks for that. Sometimes it is possible to actually filter your search by using the word primary school or elementary school, but you're absolutely correct that in these databases it will be everything, I mean, education across the board, even oftentimes including adult education, kind of post-university, and even kind of informal education. So, yeah, the other thing I think to remember is that with the ERIC database, and as well as with Google Scholar, that what you're looking for, or what you're looking through, are peer-reviewed research pieces. And sometimes it is just a good idea to do just a plain old-fashioned Google search, not using one of these complex search engines, because you may be looking for something that you actually know from the popular literature rather than something that comes from the peer-reviewed literature. And you want to... yeah, I mean...
sorry, I was...
go ahead.
I was just going to say that I also, it helped for me to narrow my search in a way, though, because I thought my question was too broad, and so because I was asking for several different things in one search, that did help me a little bit by seeing what was coming up. I could change my question to narrow the focus. So my ineptitude helped in a way.
And Chantal, that's exactly what the process is. We've been talking in past sessions about how when you set your research question, that it's not a linear process from that point forward. You don't set your question and just go forward. That you set that question, and with every next step you take for the next 4 or 5 steps, you're going to go back and reconsider the research question to be certain that it's the correct question, that it's worded properly, that you haven't found additional information by looking at some of these sources that help you develop a better, more focused, or a research question that better matches your intention. So, what you've just done is exactly what we hope you will do. Thank you for that. So I was going to do Barbara next.
So I enjoyed ERIC more than the Google Scholar, and I enjoyed just reading quite a lot of articles. I sort of put in search words and readers and writers and reading enthusiasm and things, because that's what I was interested in, and I enjoyed having all those articles to read. Yeah, it's the first time I've ever used. I didn't even know Google Scholar existed until today, so I was, definitely learned something.
That's fantastic, great. And Anjali?
Well, I've got similar experiences as others have got, so I agree with Barbara that I've never used Google Scholar earlier, and I wasn't aware of that. Yes, there's something called as Google Scholar existing for us to help. But this was a great learning experience. ERIC has very good wide range of databases, and I browsed through some of them, and I was typing the word financial literacy because that's the question that I'm picking up on. But then I have tried different combinations of the words by typing financial literacy at international schools or financial literacy in England. So that gave me different kinds of results. So I think what matters is using your search terms very effectively in order to look at a wide range of responses to your questions. But both of them were very, very helpful to me.
Great. Thank you for that. Well, I actually am going to ask you to do a small task next, and it'll be similar to the tasks that you've just done, but it'll be actually really, it's following along lines of what Anjali just said, that when you slightly change your search words, kind of looking at how the results that you get begin to differ. And so in a moment, what I'm going to ask you to do is to go online and use ERIC and find one article that's related to cooperative learning. And when you find that article, just copy it and paste it in the chat box. And I'll know that you're ready to move on when I see that everyone has posted an article in the chat box. So again, open up a new screen for yourself. Go to ERIC. Search by cooperative learning. And leave ERIC open when you finish with that, because I'm going to ask you to do one more task there.
Any title?
Any article. Yeah, pick one that you like, post it up.
Oh, pick one I like.
Yeah, pick one you like. If you want to go to the sidebar and actually pick one out of the, so if you want to use the limiters on the left and actually pick it from a specific institution, because that sounds interesting, go ahead and click on that and see where it takes you. If you want to pick it from a specific author that turns up on the left. We have Stephanie, Barbara, Christy.
All right, you want us to find an article that is related to
Cooperative learning. If you use that as your kind of search. Tom's posted.
Well, I'm not sure what you want us just to find the article and tell you which one we're looking at.
Yep, just find it, copy the title, post it into the box. You can take a little look at it if you want while we're waiting.
I found another one that I like better.
Okay.
Fine, just go ahead and
Is that Barbara?
Anjali.
Angela is posted. Barbara has a new one. And Georgia has posted. Okay, I'm going to change the task just very, very slightly, but it's going to be very similar. And I'd like you to run a second search. And this time, I want you to use cooperative learning and math. And remember, when you type your search sequence into Eric, you should not use the AND connectors. It's just cooperative learning math. And again, post that article down in the chat box. Take a good look at the articles when they come up this time, because I'm going to ask you to notice how they were different, how they changed by extending the series of the criteria for the search. So Chantal has posted. And Barbara and Christy. And Emily. And Georgette.
Sorry.
Georgette posted the URL, but that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So again, I'm going to ask you to think about how those results differed when you were searching cooperative learning and then cooperative learning math, and why, even if you were interested in cooperative learning math, why you might search both of those strings of words instead of just one or the other. So again, if you go ahead and raise your hand, if you'd like to respond to that question.
Let's do the raise hand on this one.
Yeah. Go on, Chris.
I was just going to say that they have math in the titles or in their keywords somewhere in the text or in the abstract. There's math there now.
Anyone else?
I didn't know it.
Ugh.
Yeah, I think besides, obviously having a slightly narrower lens to look through because you're specifically looking at math, the articles themselves seem more, well, I haven't read all of them, obviously, but just from the title or the lead sentence or the abstract as such, there seems more information when you give it more to look for. So it was quite interesting to see specifically what adding math to that initial search brought up compared to just cooperative learning.
Okay. Did you notice how the number of available articles when you changed? Did it go up or did it go down?
Down.
Yeah. Angela, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention what has been said already. It makes our research very specific to the purpose. If we are typing another key term which is defining the main research question. So if you're saying yes, cooperative learning math, you could also say cooperative learning in primary education. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Try that.
We are going to take a very, very quick look at Google Scholar, again, just to refresh our memories of what we did in preparation. And so, yeah, there we go.
Okay, so this is another video.
Is this the one that was in the links for the pre-reading?
It is.
To access Google Scholar, go to scholar.google.com. Or if you are already using a Google product, look for Scholar under the More menu. Use Google Scholar to find scholarly articles and books, verify citations, and explore more useful and related resources. Let's start with a basic search for information on elephant joints. Enter your terms in the search box, then click the search button. This will search the full text of articles and books in every field of study. You might notice that the results are a little different than in a standard Google search. You will see the article title, publication date, author, journal title, and links to freely available full text. If it's available, free full text will appear to the right of a search result, beginning with the letters HTML or PDF. Let's click on one and see how it works. As you can see, it connected us to the full text on the publisher website. Now let's try clicking on a title that does not show a free PDF or HTML option. Each journal publisher is different, so you'll want to look around for the words full text, which can appear as a link or as a PDF icon. Sometimes you'll get a list that will take you to the full article for free. Often you'll be asked to pay for the article at prices between $25 and $50. Not do it. As a student, you should not have to pay for articles. Your course fees already provide you with extensive library resources, so try those first. Even if your school doesn't have access, you can usually borrow it from another school through a process called interlibrary loan. A newer feature allows your school library to link their resources to Google. This way, Google Scholar will be able to check if your school has access to articles that appear in the results list. To configure Google Scholar for your library resources, go to Scholar Preferences. In the Library Links box, type the name of your college or university. You may need to use an abbreviation. Use the checkboxes that match. There may be more than one. If you already see some checked for your school, you're already set up. Another option to set is to open search results in a new window. This keeps your search results in the current window and opens the articles you click on in new windows or tabs. When finished, be sure to choose Save Preferences. If your school cannot be found in library links, you still have some options. Return to a screen where you can clearly see the article information such as journal title, article title, author, and publication date. Use this information to search your library resources for the article, or ask a librarian if you need help doing this. If you were able to find your school, now you will see a link at the bottom of some search results that says find it at or get it at with your school name or abbreviation. This means that you're an online or print subscription to this journal title, but that does not guarantee access to the specific volume or issue your article belongs to. Follow the link to find out how to access the article through your school library. You may be asked to log in with your student username and password. Adding your school to the preferences may also give you more full-text links to the right of articles. This is because some databases are set up to link to Google Scholar. You can tell that these are different because they will not begin with the letters HTML or PDF, but instead with the database name like EBSCO or Gale. This link will take you to the full text within the database through your school. Not all databases are linked in this way, so be sure to try the Find It links. You may be asked to log in with your student username and password. Like a regular Google search, the results in Scholar can be overwhelming. If your search results number in several hundreds or thousands, choose the Advanced Scholar Search option to the right of the search box. You can see that there are several options to narrow your search. Many are the same that you find in a regular Google search, including options like limiting by date. Unique in Google Scholar is the option to specify a specific author or journal title. Another neat feature within Scholar is to choose specific subject areas. This is handy when your search terms may be popular in multiple subjects, but you're only interested in one or two. Choose Search Scholar to continue. Notice the Cited By link. This is the number of times Google Scholar has found this article cited in other articles. This can give you some idea of how popular a source is, but you should know that this only includes articles that Google has indexed. This means that it is not an expert or foolproof way to rate the article. Another great use for this feature is to find new sources, especially if this article fits your topic very well. You now have 12 additional articles to consider. Another way to find similar articles is the Related Articles link. Click this, and Google will display a list of articles that it has determined to be similar in content. Google determines this by keywords that occur in the articles, if they are published in the same journal, if they are written by the same author, and a number of other factors they keep secret. You may have noticed that in some results, the article title is not a link, and it shows the word citation in brackets. This means that Google found the article citation listed in a bibliography, but was unable to find online access to the article itself. If you are interested in this article, use the provided information to find it at your library. Google Scholar is a great tool to use in addition to library databases. If you need more help using it, or need help tracking down an article, you can always ask a librarian at your school for help.
Yeah, it's good. All right. I did want to point out a few things that come up in that particular short clip that don't come up in the other clip. And the first one I wanted to point out are some other ways, some other criteria that you can use to search by that you'll find, I think, are really important when you begin searching. And one of those is by publication date. Oftentimes unless you're looking for kind of classic information or foundational knowledge that appears in the research, you'll generally want to be looking for research that was published within the past 10 to 15 years. And so the ability of Google Scholar to filter that, you can also put those dates into ERIC, but it's not something that they make prominent note of. And just like ERIC, you can also, in Google Scholar, use criteria that have to do with the name of the journal that it might appear in, the author, the institution that produced it, and other criteria that you might want to put in when you're doing your search is the countries where the information was published in. So, for example, you might be interested in looking for information coming specifically from the UK or from Australia or from New Zealand or from some other country where you have the sense that the education programs may be producing the kind of research that you're looking for. Besides Google Scholar and ERIC, each of our campuses does have a library with a research database of some kind. And to just find out about what your particular campus might have, you just need to talk to your librarian to see what subscriptions we have, because they do differ among our campuses. I also wanted to mention that for our UK-based participants, for Chris and Anjali, that we do have membership in the University College London Library through the Institute of Education. Unfortunately, even our colleagues in Doha can search that database, that in order to access those resources, you have to go in person to the library. So unless someone knows that from Doha, they're making a trip to England and they want to go to the library and look for some things, it won't be very useful. But if you do find you're coming and you want to do that as part of your trip, please let us know and we'll explain to you how to get access to the IOE database. The other thing I wanted to note about Google Scholar is that some of you, any of you who would have been working with secondary students, may know that this is a really common database to familiarize high school students with, that a lot of our high school students in our IB programs will be using Google Scholar in the developments of their extended essays or their practical work that they're doing in the different subject areas. So again, I know that some of you have mentioned what you did with Google Scholar. Does anyone want to add anything to your experience of having used Google Scholar?
Oh, lost you all.
Oh,
I can't see any of you. Can you still see us?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. We seem to have lost
our pictures. So can you use your raise the hand symbol in the attendees? Georgette, I'm sorry, shut up, please.
Yeah, so the question that I had was when you said that the people in London can use the University College London, do we have anything here in Doha that we can use? Because they have a really nice library. I don't know if it has any resources, but I mean, it's just really nice to be able to go someplace that's academic to study so that you're not distracted.
Right. No, I would say that any of those libraries, if you have access to them, I would just approach the librarian, ask them which databases you might have access to. We don't have any formal, I mean, the Center for Inspiring Minds doesn't have any formal links with the Doha universities. Okay. Barbara.
I feel a bit like I've been living under a rock that I didn't know about these things. I know Stephanie said something this afternoon. She said something, if you've done undergrad or postgrad studies in you would have used these many times. So to me, it was a bit American. But interesting to know about this now that I've discovered this. So.
That's great. I think that all big universities, no matter where they are, have always had their own internal searchable databases based on the periodicals that they subscribe to and the other kinds of resources that they have. But these big online databases, you shouldn't feel too badly about it because I mean, really, even though they've been around for a while, they haven't become really big enough to be effective until recent years. So, I mean, unless you would have done a master's within the past, 7 or 8 years, these resources are fairly new to everyone. ERIC has been around for a long time, but that's a little bit different. And it is a very American-based resource. They do archive peer-reviewed pieces from all around the world, but it does tend to be very heavy on the research work coming out of American universities. Anybody else? I want to actually do a quick activity here before we wrap up our session today. And the activity is based on the case study that was included this week. So if you have a paper copy of that, or if you have an electronic copy of that, which you can open in a new screen to look at, you'll probably find it useful to refer back to that. And again, the title of this one was How Does Talk Around Reading Influence Comprehension in Third Grade? And again, we'll doing some really quick analysis of this. What was the researcher's topic in this case study? Again, raise your hand.
Raise your hand, yeah. Because we can't see you now.
Anjali, go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's to do with how talk around reading can influence comprehension in third grade.
Yeah. So again, one of the great things in a well-written research question, you actually kind of really understand the topic in a very thorough way. In this particular case, I suspect that they've actually used their research question as the title for the case study. So the clues here about the topic actually come from the title of the case study. So it's about talk around reading, it's around reading comprehension, and it's about third grade reading programs. Now, based on just with that much information, again, if you could please raise your hand and tell me or just share with us what you think some of the terms are we could use to help the researcher find additional articles. So if we were going to put some word strings into one of those searchable databases, what are some of the strings of words we can use? And go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on you. Angela, is your hand up or is it still up from last time?
Yeah, so reading strategies.
Okay, reading strategies.
Chris?
Talk around reading comprehension.
Yeah.
Third grade. Barbara, you need to put your hand up in the little icon, not your hand up in. I don't think we can see you.
So we can't see you for some reason.
Oh,
Thanks. Go ahead, Sean.
Problems.
sorry. Reading comprehension strategies.
Okay.
Barbara, did you want to?
Reading
Stephanie.
Were you talking specifically about the title, just from the title?
So if all that you had was the title, so imagine this person, they are just starting out and that is the research question that they have framed. What are some of the word strings that you would use in those different database search engines?
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to clarify, because when I read it, and I thought it particularly pertains to what Barbara wants to do, it was more about strategies when they're working independently. But if it's just from the title, then everyone's pretty much covered it.
Okay, so independent working strategies? Yeah.
Reading strategies as they work independently within the, I think it was Daily 5, which is specifically what Barbara's doing.
Okay.
I found.
So if I can just throw in a couple of things that just to kind of expand the way that we're thinking as well. One of the things that is often very good or useful to look for is that if we're looking at something as big as reading strategies, which is a really, really big, broad topic, one of the ways that you might start with a topic like that is using a string of words that would include the term literature review. So you might want to look to see other people, if there are published works that other people have done where they already have looked across the literature and brought together and synthesized a lot of the information that you might be finding as single articles. That's interesting from two perspectives. Number one, you can see how someone else has done that synthesis, although it may not be completely relevant to your research question. You can see how they've gone about it. But you can also get an idea because you'll actually see them use the references to those other pieces in a way that will suggest whether or not those other pieces might also be useful to your piece of research. So looking for literature reviews that are published around that topic is always a really great idea to get bibliographies and things that can also help you. And I said that because sometimes you will find in those bibliographies articles that they have used that you wouldn't have necessarily found or even thought to have looked for through your literature review search string of search words. So just as a little bit of a tip, I wanted to offer that. So What I would like to do now is kind of draw your attention to the learning logs that you worked on this week, and specifically learning log 3.1. In 3.1, you were asked to find and download 3 articles related to your research question, to write an APA-style citation, and to complete learning log 3.2 only if you needed to revise your research question. And can I just ask you to share a kind of your experience of doing that exercise, or what you actually found when you were doing it? And again, if you could put your yellow hands down to start and then re-raise them so we know that you're raising your hand for this question. Thank you. So Chantal's put hers down. Because I'm going to assume that all the hands that are still up are people who want to now offer a new response. So Barbara.
No, I just put mine down.
Okay.
Or did I put mine up?
Yeah, it's gone up.
Mine shows a red. Oh, no?
There goes, it's down.
No, it's down.
Chris.
I'm physics, so I'm not. For me, doing anything to do with writing or extensive writing it doesn't come naturally, or I don't feel it does. When I was doing even the citation and stuff, I just don't. I wouldn't say it's not that but yeah, I just don't like it, I suppose. I struggled with the few articles that I found. I struggled then to do them in the same style. I wasn't quite sure what the thing in brackets was. Was that the issue of the year, or so was the 8 in brackets August, or was it the 8th issue of volume? Was it volume 16 of the 8 or so? I wasn't sure. So I had a go with an article that I found, but I don't know if I've done it correctly, and I don't know how you check that. So there wasn't. It said it said issue null in the bracket, so I've just left it as without anything in brackets.
Okay.
Is that right? And what I was finding was good. Some of them I couldn't download because it said I needed to pay for them.
Yeah.
And of course, after watching the Google video, I was like, oh no, don't have to. I tried to check the access at school this morning, and it just said no. Some of them that didn't give me access at home, all of it just kind of appeared as a PDF downloadable thing when I looked back at my history. So I don't know if that's because they were authorised to school and therefore they're available. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I just need to re-reference those ones. But it was interesting to do. I think it helped me focus on the research question that I'd been thinking of, and sort of just looking at some of the other ones that I was looking at would help me see how I wanted to word it. So maybe rather than focusing on more specifics, trying to generalize it more so that people could then see that even though it's quite specific, the topic I've looked at, it can be applied to a broader genre, I suppose.
Great.
That was a lot of talking, sorry.
That's great, Chris. No, thank you for that. That's really great. If I can pick a couple of things out of what you said just to kind of emphasize them. Whenever you are looking online, if you do find a PDF that is available online for free, still make an attempt at writing the citation. And I should say that at this point, that having the citation exactly correct for APA style is not so critical at this point. If you decided later that the reason that you want to do it now is that if you get down a certain way with this and that things are going really well and you decide you actually want to create, you want to write something, whether it's a paper for a professional association journal or something that will be published online, or even if you get to the point where you wanted to publish something and submit it for a peer-reviewed journal, that the more information you collect at the beginning, the less you have to do in terms of going back and reconstruct that. But if you do find something that is available for free online, what is very, very typical, or what is actually required, is that after you write the AP style citation, you actually write something that says sourced online at, and actually paste in the URL with a live connection. And again, that does a couple of things for you. No matter what you publish, you'll want to include that so that your reader knows that you actually looked at that online in the event that there's a slightly different version in the publication versus what is produced online. Because oftentimes the authors of these pieces will produce a for free online piece, and then they'll submit it for peer review. And in the peer review piece, it gets changed slightly, it gets edited slightly. It's not the exact same version. So whenever you source something online, you want to say that it may very well be the final edited version, but you don't know that by looking at it. The other thing that does is if you ever have to go back to it, you have the link right there to go back to it. And if you put it into a bibliography that someone else is reading, if they have the capability of then using the live link that you put in, they can also go right to your original source. So APA style, terrific to try to get it in the format that's as close to APA style as you can, but don't worry if you don't have it exactly right. If you find it for free online as a PDF, please provide the source where you found it. With articles that do have a cost associated with them, and there are a fair number of those, if we were actually engaged in a real research project, what we would do is we would look at the abstract, because even though you have to pay for the full document, typically you can read the abstract. And the abstract should really let you know if it's an article that is worth purchasing. If you were working on a SIM project, the funding to purchase articles would come from us. But if you're working on things within your divisions, again, there are mechanisms to apply for funding to get access to publications, and they'll be different at each campus. Does anyone else want to add anything? I apologize for my comments were even longer than Chris's with that one. Chantal?
Yeah, I actually found the 2 articles that I took from Eric had everything already cited in the APA style. I just really had to cut and paste. They had the author followed by the title, followed by the volume and the issue. It was all there. It was already cited in the correct style. And the one that I got from Google Scholar, it didn't have all the information. Like it didn't have the volume number and it didn't have the issue number. But certainly the ones that I got off Eric, perhaps because it's a more academic, I don't know, is that fair to say? It was properly cited, so it was easy for me to record. But I'm interested in the fact that you said that we can create a link. So that's something we're allowed to do as far as copyright, etc. is concerned.
No, absolutely, and it's something that you would want to do. It's one of the things that you would be required to do as part of copyright is to say exactly where you found that version.
All right. Thank you.
Anjali, did you want to add anything?
My experience with citation has been pretty good because we do a lot of subject or related researches in humanities and economics and extended essays. So I was pretty familiar with APA format, but I would repeat what Chantal has already mentioned, that some of the resources that came from Eric already had the correct form of citation. So I didn't have to go down again and see, but I was checking and it was accurately as it was expected.
No, that's great, and always you want to do the thing that saves you the most time, and if it appears there in its proper form, copy and paste it into your list that you're working on, and just go from there. Yeah, there's a reason why they do that, and that's because they would like to see the article cited in a similar way every time. All right, thank you. I'm going to go on to the.
I just want to say that the high school librarians actually are very good at citations and how things should be cited. So if you've got any questions, you should go and speak to your high school librarian, because the ones at Cobham, they actually teach the students how to do it. So they're a good place to ask questions.
Yep. I imagine that in your high school libraries, that all of your librarians have a role in teaching students how to do research. And they'll be really familiar with using kind of the more general databases where you can research any topic. So things like Google Scholar, as I said, most of our high school students are using Google Scholar in the work that they do already. I wanted to go on to the last part of this question and ask if any of you needed to revise your research question. So again, if you could raise your hand if you went back and revised your research question.
Anjali, is your hand up from the previous question, or do you want to ask this one?
Must be from the previous one, yeah.
Okay. Barbara.
I still haven't really formulated my search question yet. So so it didn't really help me. But it did make me think about how I was, about those things that we talked about last week. But I still haven't really finished writing out a whole question yet.
Okay. So Barbara, one of the things I'm going to recommend is that you get to the point where you have a question that reflects where you think you're going before you do the materials or look at the tasks from session 4. So do that first. Have reformulate your question first, then do session 4, and then if it changes again or changes your thinking again, then make changes from there. But you're going to need to have a fair amount of direction for session 4. Okay. If you need ideas or things, we're happy to help out with that.
Yeah, I had to go back, and I'd had so many questions that I was playing with. I had to go back to listen to last week's session again. So, just to remember which question it was at the end that we'd settled on. So, yeah, I'll do that. I'll make sure I work on that this week.
Okay. Thank you.
Chantel?
Yes, I actually, and I think I mentioned this at the beginning, with the articles that I read, I did change my focus somewhat, and then I went back to session 2's notes in my learning log, and I noticed that actually I had been mentioning the fact that teacher professional development is a big part of success in getting teachers to buy into the process of being evaluated against student learning outcomes. And so I had sort of preempted my own thought process, and then the articles that I read just reinforced the fact that to be successful in my question, in my research, and ultimately in the outcome, I have to do some more back study on effective teacher development before we can move forward into how do you make them interested in this kind of goal setting for their students, and how do you make that successful for the students' learning outcomes. So, it's again that whole design backwards thing where you're looking at the problem that's on the plate in front of you, but way back in the kitchen, the chef forgot to add an ingredient. Yeah. So sometimes you have to work your way back and try and figure out what was missing in the first place as to why you have the problem now.
And Chantal, that just reflects a really, really sound approach to research. One of the things that you're going to find in the course is that we're not going to expect you to have kind of a really clear research question until session 5. And literally, we're going to be doing a whole series of things. We're going to be going back and revisiting that question. But you'll find that putting in the work up front and kind of struggling through defining that question, once you have the question, the rest of the piece just flows from that, and it flows really easily, especially if you frame the question in a very focused way. So what you've just described is exactly what we are expecting people are struggling with and discovering about setting a research question at this point. So thank you for that. Georgette.
Oh, yeah, no, my question, I'm sure you've already answered it, but when one is researching on Google Scholars and you find articles that you're interested in, and they have to be purchased, if you could repeat what was the process you said that we should follow or make ourselves aware of.
Yeah, so if it's something that is part of a SIM project or part of some other initiative that campuses are doing, chances are that there's actually funding to purchase resources to support those. So if it was a SIM project, for example, and it was part of writing a literature review, we would provide the funding to purchase that. But also, it's just a matter of checking with your division principal in your campuses and looking at what possibilities there are for purchasing specific articles, especially. Typically the things that you're looking for are going to be related to addressing a real issue in a school, and it's possible that there may be other people in your division who would benefit from having access to that article as well. So again, it's all based on what your campus level procedures are for doing that, but I would certainly just check with your division principal to find out how you would proceed if you came across something and it wasn't part of a SIM project.
Okay.
Stephanie.
Yeah, I found the reading this week, especially the case study, helped me because I could apply some of what I read in there to help me to narrow it. So last week it was really broad, and we had a long conversation about it. How what I started with was how can I effectively ensure that students transfer their spelling knowledge to other curricular areas. And so I was able this week to narrow it a bit, and I think I'm getting closer to a question, if I provide an opportunity, one that's rich and authentic, for reflection during my weekly word study activities, will the consolidation and transfer of spelling knowledge be more authentic and consistent? So I think I'm getting there because I could answer the questions on 3.2, except for the open-ended one. I wasn't sure about that then, but I think I'm getting closer, so it was helpful.
Yeah, it sounds like you're getting closer. It sounds like that's a really, I mean, just listening to you say what the question is, I could imagine what you were going to do, and I could imagine what you were going to measure. And again, that's always the fundamental things to look for in the research question. If you can visualize those two things, you know that you're well on your way to defining that. Was that it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to put all your hands down before we move to the next slide.
Yeah.
So
just to kind of wrap up on this slide, I did want to mention that next week we are going to be talking about annotated bibliographies, and you're actually going to be doing some exercises around creating some short annotations for some of the articles that you have found. I do want to again remind you that as part of this course that you're not required to carry out an action research project or to write a literature review. But one of the things that you're going to need to do in order to be able to think about creating, working on the modules that have to do with a design, a research design, and data collection methods and those things, is that you are going to need to find and read a couple of key articles and really synthesize those in the annotated bibliography, because those are going to make it, it's going to contextualize the other exercises that we're going to do. So again, for next week, when you're thinking about next week, really try to pick a couple of articles that you think are going to be key pieces in terms of whatever the topic is that you're interested in, and use those as a basis for developing your short annotated bibliographies. All right, at this point, we have come to the end of the session, and I just wondered if you had any questions about anything that you did in preparation for today, or anything that we talked about today. So again, if you would raise your hand using the yellow hand, and we'll call on you. Okay, we don't see any questions right now. Please know that if at any time during the next week when you start working on the materials for session 4, if you have any questions, if you want us to look at anything, please just drop us an email. We are going to be attending a conference over the next couple of days, but we will be checking email regularly. So if we don't get back to you, within the hour, please know that we will get back to you as soon as we can.
Okay, so finally, your last learning log, which is learning log 3.3, which is the learning log for the learning points from this week's session. So, as we say every week, please use this learning log to jot down anything that you want to, that you have found interesting and you feel that you may want to refer to in the future. So it's a good way of just keeping a record of what the session has been about and what you've taken away from it. So please use it. And Georgette, you've just raised your hand. Do you have a question about it?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, is this session recorded? If we want to go back and see things,
yes,
we can?
Yeah, we record all the sessions. So and every week I'll send you the link to that session. If at any time you lose you delete the email and you want to go back to a session that was 2 weeks ago, just let me know and I can resend it. So the videos are always available.
Yep. And Georgette will also print a copy of the chat record so that you can see the things that you put in, you can see what other people put in, you can look at those comments again.
Yeah. So at any time, you can always just come back to us, and we can reissue with with the transcript, with the video. And just to remind you again as well, these learning logs, I mean, they are for your own information, but if at any time you do wish to share them, then that's entirely up to you. We don't expect you to, but you're welcome to, and we'll always be happy to give you feedback.
All right, so we look forward to joining you a week from today at the same time. And thank you very much for joining us this week.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Oh, one more thing.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.